Late-night talk show host Stephen Colbert is accusing the Trump administration of censorship. He says CBS blocked him from airing an interview with Texas Democrat state lawmaker James Talarico. CBS denies that claim. And joining us now to unpack this, we have Laurie Watkins, political strategist and former policy advisor to President Barack Obama, and attorney and conservative commentator David Pollack. Great to have you guys back on the program. Thank you for joining us. Laurie, on this issue, it hinges on the FCC's equal time rule, which requires the network to provide equal coverage to political candidates from both parties. Now, when you look at the guests on Colbert that he brings on, does that lineup feel politically balanced to you?
Thank you for having me on the program. So some of the description in the rules that came out said that he would have had to have the other Democratic candidates like Jasmine Crockett, et cetera, on. And I don't think that that's a problem. And now that the host knows the rules, I'm sure that he's going to accommodate all of those candidates and come up with some clever way to get them onto the program. You know, there's the difference between a political show or an opinion show or whether something is considered news. And, you know, there's different rules and regulations in different countries. And I say that because last night, for example, I was on a British television network that's considered an opinion show, and you can have different guests on that don't have to have an exact balance on the other side. So here in the United States, this FCC rules, I guess they're making sure that they follow them even on nighttime, whatever you want to call it, after hours shows here. And so we'll have to see, but you can understand politically how this looks, given the other people being pulled off of TV, for example, or their shows being canceled and the outlash that happened because of that, and people pulling their subscriptions, et cetera, and causing a lot of money and pain to some of these networks. So this is just what some consider more censorship, more violations of the First Amendment. But if Stephen Colbert can find a way to get other candidates on the program, then I don't think he'll have a problem.
And David, the equal time rule hasn't been enforced for talk shows or news coverage in today's media environment. Should this regulation be revisited and reconsidered?
I don't think so. And the FCC has their rules. There are so many alternative platforms, and Colbert here put the show on YouTube instead. So there's plenty of avenues where you can showcase whatever candidate you want, but the airwaves are still owned by the people. And if you're going to use them for political purposes, I think equal time it's fine the way it is. Now, the interesting thing about this is it wasn't the FCC that says you can't do it. It was the lawyers of the network who said, I don't think you should do this, because if you do it, you're going to have to offer the equal time. And then the show decided that they didn't want to offer the equal time, so they didn't air the segment there. Instead, they did it on YouTube. So this wasn't even like the government censoring Colbert. But that's the story. Of course, he's made shows being canceled because he's not funny. He wants to make media and try to make it seem as if he's so important that people care about what he says. That's not the reality. The reality is equal time applies here, and he just didn't want to give equal time to anybody else. And it wasn't censorship. It was just an editorial call by the Colbert's team.
Let's move on to our next topic here. U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are in Geneva trying to hash out a potential nuclear deal with Iran. Vice President J.D. Vance says while progress was made in that meeting, Iran is still not accepting some red lines set by the U.S. Let's take a listen.
We do have a very powerful military. The president's shown a willingness to use it. He also has a remarkable diplomatic team. He's shown a willingness to use that, too. And so what the president has been very clear with the Iranians, and actually I just talked to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner this morning about some of their negotiations, is the United States has certain red lines. Our primary interest here is we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon.
So, David, it appears that the red line here is pretty clear. Will Iran fall in line, or do we have enough leverage?
Look, and I respect and support anything this administration does with respect to Iran. They've been a bad actor for a long time. They're the largest state sponsor of terror globally. They've sent Hezbollah to Venezuela, so Venezuela can send drugs and enemies across our border. Iran has never been a team player with respect to peace and security around the world. That being said, I am confused on all the various red lines. We did have a red line with respect to the protesters. They've killed up to 30,000 protesters, the Islamic regime in Iran, and so that was a red line. And certainly we destroyed, supposedly, the nuclear capabilities when we did that strike with our stealth bombers a few months ago. And so now we're hearing that, they're trying to build another weapon again. I don't know how they could. Obviously, Iran having a nuclear weapon is a red line. The way I see it is Iran's not a good actor here in the world. And I don't think the American people need various justifications. I think by and large, the American people will support military action against Iran. Iran has always been hostile to the United States. And so, whatever the red line is, whether it's nuclear weapons, whether it's killing protesters, whatever the issue is, I think the United States needs to assert itself. We've already showed on the Don Road Doctrine that we're not going to tolerate their influence in our hemisphere. But at the same time, we have a lot of allies in the Middle East who would like to see the Iran problem go away as well. So I think we should work together with a coalition, make sure Iran is behaving. But in the same time, I think we should look for ways to eliminate the threat that Iran poses to the world.
And Laurie, where do you see this heading? Do you think the Trump administration will stay on the diplomatic track, or will there be a U.S. military involvement?
Well, as a policy analyst, to be very frank, we're never going to get rid of the Iran problem. So the Iranians want to enter into the JCPOA again, which very much Donald Trump is against. He thought that it was not a great deal under the Obama administration. He's made that very clear. So that's something that the Iranians recently came back at. They also want to continue enriching uranium at a very low level, and the Trump administration says, absolutely not. That's a non-starter. It needs to be at zero. You should not have the capability or the opportunity to enrich any uranium as far as they're concerned. I wouldn't solely disagree with that factor. But whether it's through continued pressure with sanctions, it doesn't seem to be really working. And unfortunately, Donald Trump did draw a red line. I would agree with my colleague here, David, that what red line, when he was talking about red lines, there's been so many red lines that Donald Trump has drawn that I can't even keep track. And he continues to backtrack on those. I speak to many Iranian people. I was just in the country as of 48 hours ago in a bordering country to Iran, less than 48 hours ago. And the tensions there in the region are very high because they are hopeful that Donald Trump and this administration can get something done. And sending these envoys over there, while, you know, with all due respect, they have been successful in a Gaza-Israel relations, they are not diplomats. They do not have the training and the expertise and the wherewithal and the decades of knowledge like, you know, seasoned, trained diplomats do to make some of these deals that Donald Trump is wanting to make, and the United States wants. I want it to work because of our national security and the security of the region. Absolutely. But Donald Trump should be using the most equipped, the highest advanced people that could go and do these deals. And I don't think that that's who he has. And unfortunately, he drew that red line about the protesters, and thousands upon thousands. My people on the ground tell me that there was about 30,000 more people, protesters, that were killed in that time period that Donald Trump said he drew that red line. So I don't know what he's talking about, that he's saving the day and his involvement is stopping and there's been peace and no killings since he got involved. That's just absolutely not factual.
If I may, I would rule out. Yeah. If I may, I would rule out that Donald Trump is going to defer on this red line issue. I think he's there's two carrier groups that are now in striking position. We didn't have that before. I think the idea of bringing up this nuclear red line plus the protester red line, I don't think Trump has, it's been clear through Venezuela, Trump has shown his willingness to back up his words with actions. And I believe there is action coming to Iran very soon. I think he does have the capable people there to negotiate a deal, but I don't think Iran is actually serious about negotiating. I think once the strike groups are in position, I think military action will take place in Iran, and I'm just waiting to see, honestly.
Yes, well, the pressure is definitely increasing, so we'll just have to wait and see on that. Let's move on to our final topic here. The DHS Secretary Kristi Noem today confirming the departure of Tricia McLaughlin, the department's Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. McLaughlin's considered one of the most outspoken defenders of President Trump's immigration policies. Laurie, what do you make of McLaughlin's tenure, and does her departure signal a change within the Department of Homeland Security?
Absolutely. Members of Congress right now, there's a partial shutdown because of this fact right here, that they want more money for the Department of Homeland Security and those agencies that fall underneath that. And the American public is is remarkably and absolutely understandably upset at what they have seen over the last few months, especially coming out of Minneapolis. But this just isn't Minneapolis. This happened in Chicago. This happened in Los Angeles. This happened in Maine, by the way, where my family lives. I was there on the ground a couple weeks ago and I saw ICE agents there. So this is happening around the country. Parents, children, mothers are understandably very upset. Average Americans are upset that U.S. citizens are getting killed. And it's not just 2 U.S. citizens who have been killed so far. There have been 38 people who have been killed at the hands of ICE officers here in the United States. And so the talk, Donald Trump, I watched a press conference. I was on another network last night and he was getting off Air Force One and someone brought up the fact about a relationship happening between Corey Lewandowski and Kristi Noem. And you could tell that Donald Trump had not heard that before. He was very alarmed and disturbed to hear that. And this just is another mark against Kristi Noem and how she's leading this agency, and that the headlines are not what Donald Trump wants. It is making his poll numbers continue to go down. We are in a midterm election year. This is not helping Republicans at all. And here they are, instead of passing legislation that could help with affordability here and lowering the costs for average Americans here in the United States. What are members of Congress doing? Fighting over the bloated and expansive, ever expansive budget for DHS. And we've seen the way that they treat people here in the United States.
David, your thoughts?
I mean, all due respect, that's ridiculous. You're worried about the deaths that you're saying ICE agents caused when you're not even considering the deaths of the innocent
you should be upset about the deaths that ICE agents caused.
The innocent American citizens that the illegal aliens have killed. This is the problem with your side. You guys want to be sympathetic to illegal criminal aliens that ICE agents, law enforcement, brave men and women are putting their lives on the line. Not only are they a threat from the illegal aliens who are attacking them, but then the crazy liberal protesters who are attacking them as well. ICE is doing a very important job of removing the criminal aliens from this country because they are killing Americans. ICE are not killing innocent people. Renee Good and this other guy, Alex Preedy, or whatever his name is, they attacked ICE agents.
Oh, whatever his name is, he was killed. You should have respect.
Alex Preedy had a gun, and you guys are painting them like innocent people when the people that ICE is apprehending have killed Americans.
Why are you standing up for the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms? He had a concealed carry permit.
On the question that was asked about the spokeswoman from ICE, this is one of these fake news stories that's out there making it seem like there's dysfunction in DHS. There's not. This was a planned departure months ago, but because of the chaos in Minneapolis, she agreed to stay on. There's no dysfunction. It's operating fine. And by the way, the American people, most of the American people are very happy about the immigration enforcement actions happening in this country. If you don't believe me, look at Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, who are changing their tunes on immigration enforcement. So at the end of the day, Democrats know that this is a popular issue with Americans, and all this nonsense about getting people stirred up about anti-ICE, it is going to be a loser for the Democrats in 2026.
Well, this all happens while the DHS still remains unfunded, and so we're going to have to... Laurie Watkins, David Pollack, really appreciate your insights. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.